I'd like to call this meeting of the Municipal Council to order at 6 o'clock. Please join me for a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd entertain motion to suspend the rules. Thank you. Motion is in order. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We're operating under suspended rules because we are going to go into executive session. Just want to make sure everything is lined up. That being said, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Although we're going to do a roll call vote beginning with Mr. Kobus.
Mr. Kobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. We will now rise and go into committee of the whole. I'll invite all councilors, the city clerk, the council admin, Mayor DeSimone, the ADA coordinator, and the city solicitor.
Just to correct you, not committee of the whole.
I'm sorry, executive session.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Meeting of the Municipal Council back to order at 6:59. We will go immediately into public hearings. So, Madam Clerk, if you would please read the notice for the first public hearing.
First public hearing regarding the following loan order. Ordered that $717,000 be appropriated for the cost of purchasing and equipping an ambulance. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow $717,000 under Section 7(1) of Chapter 44 of the General Laws, or any other enabling authority, and that the mayor is authorized to take any other action necessary to carry out this project.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in favor?
You know who I am, but I'm Scott LaChance. I'm the fire chief to the city of Attleboro. I'm here to speak in favor. As you know, we've had a long-standing practice of trying to replace ambulances on a timely basis. Historically, we've tried to buy a new ambulance every 2 years. One of the challenges that we've run into since COVID is the back order. So the last 2 ambulances that we took possession of were essentially delivered at the exact same time. So we're off of that schedule now. So I've been working with Mason for the last couple of years to try to figure out the best strategy to try to get back on track. So this loan authorization will help us to get back on track. He has some other financial plans for the future. When the debt comes off some of the other rescues, when they're paid, we'll be able to get back on track to doing it. The reason we do it at that interval is we run 3 ambulances frontline. If they're much more than 6 years old, by the time they're 6 years old, they have close to 150,000 miles on them. So it's not very reliable at that point. So once we get back on that plan every 2 years, we'll hopefully have frontline rescues that are never more than 100,000 miles. That's the goal. So I ask you to support this.
Councilor Lavoy.
Thank you, Chief, for coming down tonight. Thank you for all the work you do. I know saying you're busy lately is an understatement, given the reports.
They've been pretty busy.
Just to confirm, I believe I know the answer, but to confirm for everybody watching, this is only to keep what we have in place. This is not to make a 4th rescue online. I know that's been a goal for a while. But
No, that's correct. This would be, we're actually in the process right now of hopefully no longer cross-manning an ambulance. So we'll have 3 full-time ambulances. We looked at some of the data for response times, which I've spoken to you about numerous times. And we do have a plan to move an ambulance up to headquarters, which will definitely help with the major call volume. Definitely down the road, we're going to have to look at options in the future for 4th rescue at some point. But we currently own 6. So we have 3 frontline ambulances. The other 3 are reserves. Sometimes they get put in service like for events like the 4th of July. Other events, if there's really bad weather coming, we'll put an extra ambulance in service for the day. But the main reason we have them is we have to use them to do the preventative maintenance and repairs on the other ambulances. So 6 is kind of the bare bone minimum to have 3 in service. So if we were to ever have 4 in service, we'd be looking at probably 7. We just wouldn't surplus one, when we bought a new one. That's how we would do it.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none. All right, Chief, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to
Have a
see you
good
as
night.
always. Do we have anyone else to speak in favor?
Good evening. Mason Lord, Director of Budget Administration, speaking in favor. Just to expand a little bit on what Chief said, one of the biggest challenges right now is the lead times on these ambulances. So, we have a quote in place for the ambulance that we'd be looking to procure under this loan order. It's about a 2.5-year lead time. So when Chief mentioned the, sort of 6-year life of the ambulance, 5 to 6 year life, when you have a 3-year lead time, by the time you get one ambulance in, you already need to be planning to have the other one in. So this is sort of, proactively looking to make sure we plus up that fleet and that, we're able to move forward. The council is probably a little bit more accustomed to a loan order in the range of, $500,000 to $600,000. The cost for these vehicles has escalated significantly. I think most recently ambulance purchases were around $550,000. The quotes we have right now are in that $620,000 range. So it is definitely continuing to rise, and it's about a 10% escalation right there. And the load order in front of you has an additional 15% contingency baked in. The reasoning for that is one of the things that we're hearing from the vendors is that, you know, they're not really sure where things are going with tariffs. So the way the structure of these ambulances go is they get the chassis in and they sort of rebuild them from the ground up. So there's components that could be coming from, you know, out of country. So there's potential tariff impacts on some of the components of these builds. So in their quotes, they're not really willing to quote without putting sort of a catch-all of, you know, tariff fees if and when applicable. So just something we're trying to, you know, be proactive about and make sure we have a contingency built in. You know, the other question that could come up is why would the city borrow rather than potentially use available free cash, which will be coming available in the next few months, or potentially some other financial reserve, capital reserve, et cetera. You know, one of the things with the lead times built into these is that, you know, we have to have an appropriation available to enter into a contract. So as soon as a loan order is executed, the city auditor has a waiting period of about 30 days and then can enter into a contract. So what a loan order author allows us to do is essentially enter into an obligation without actually going to market for the funding until such time comes that we actually need that cash flow. So with such a long lead time, it's not necessarily advantageous for us to set aside, you know, funds at this point into a capital fund and sit on them for 2.5 to 3 years until that ambulance actually arrives. And this also allows us just to immediately move forward and continue to sort of build those reserves and use those for larger scale, longer term capital improvement plans. So that's sort of the approach there.
Any questions? All right, Mason, thank you. Good to see you as always. Do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Do we have anyone to speak against? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Seeing none, Council Holmes, do you see any reason to keep this public hearing open?
I do not.
Declare that public hearing closed, and Madam Clerk will go on to a reading of the second communication, please.
Second public hearing this
Not
evening.
public hearing, sorry.
Public hearing regarding proposed amendments to the following sections of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro as indicated below. Amendment Sections 13-3 Classification Plan and 13-4 Compensation Plan by adding the following positions. Assistant Director of Planning and Development, SATS 4. Assistant Director of Budget and Administration, SATS 3. Chief of Staff, DSM 1. Amend Section 2-1.3, Assistant to the Mayor, by striking the entire section and replacing it with the following. 2-1.3, Chief of Staff.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to speak in favor?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here to speak in support of the request to add the 3 new positions to the classification and compensation plans. I want to emphasize to you and the public that although I firmly believe that these positions are necessary and in the best interest of the city, all we are proposing to you at this moment is to add these positions to the plans. Whether and when they may be funded will be a separate matter, which will also require your review and approval. Moreover, and for what it's worth, if you vote to approve adding these positions to the class and comp plans, and if and when funds were to allow, I would prioritize filling these positions in the following order. 1, the Assistant Director of Budget and Administration. 2, an Assistant City Planner. And 3, a Chief of Staff for the Office of Mayor. Also, although I believe Gary and Mason will and can better speak to the respective proposed assistant positions in their departments, it is important to remember that the decision to add these positions to the class and comp plans should not be based on the people currently serving as directors. Rather, I respectfully suggest that the issue before you is whether you find it in the city's best interest to have these plans on the books and these positions on the books, and if at a later date a request of funds comes down to fill these positions before you, that you ask the same question. Is it in the city's best interest to fill and fund these positions? Also, please know that one of the reasons that the class and comp study was conducted was to better understand the city's competitive position in terms of recruitment and retention, the job duties of the current positions, and to better ensure succession planning, which is something we certainly need to work on. Succession planning is particularly important as attitudes about work change. We are unlikely to see more 30-plus year employees like my friend Mr. Arasia in the back and your beloved city auditor. We're not going to see those folks in the future, and thus we need to be more resilient when department heads leave unexpectedly for whatever reason. Now, in regard to the proposed Assistant Director of Budget and Administration in particular, I would like to bring to your attention the following for your consideration. The market for these folks is small, and they come at a cost because it's competitive. As we have learned twice in the past 5 years, if for some reason the Director of Budget and Administration leaves, follows the prior mayor, or retires, or for some other reason takes an extended leave of absence from the job, it puts an incredible burden on the city auditor, the accounting department, and other staff, and also compromises our ability to effectively move forward with large capital projects, transfers, and ordinary budget and finance-related matters. If this were to happen in the budget season, we would be in a very difficult position. And although the auditor, as you all know, is more than capable of producing a balanced budget, it should not be on the auditor to do that again. Moreover, as Mason and Gary will speak to, there are a number of inefficiencies and missed opportunities that could be addressed by adding an Assistant Director of Budget and Administration and an Assistant Director of Planning to their respective staffs. As for the proposed Chief of Staff position in the Office of Mayor, please know that although the Chief of Staff position is new in name, the appointed position of Assistant to the Mayor has long been in the city ordinances and was long staffed for many years under prior administrations. Because the position has been vacant for several years, it was not included in the recent classification compensation plan. So this request is fundamentally to rename, bring it more up to date if you will, and reestablish the position. And although I may be the mayor at the moment, I propose this position be restored not solely because of my particular experience, but rather because I think it would benefit the city. It is in the city's best interest to provide some continuity between administrations that would better ensure the day-to-day operations as the next administration begins. I know when Mayor Dumas left, a whole lot of stuff just fell right off the table. No one was there to continue to promote these projects and stuff that Kevin had planned on doing. Moreover, having a chief of staff would allow the mayor, whoever they may be, to maximize their time and effectiveness by having the chief of staff work more directly and more regularly with department heads on particular projects and issues in their respective departments. Additionally, a chief of staff could assist in researching and preparing reports and communications, special project planning, and building relationships with community members and stakeholders, all of which would allow the mayor to look up from the keyboard, to get out from behind the desk, and get into the community, spending more time on long-term and strategic planning and improvements to city operations and functions. He or she can see bigger, they can look out and be in the community and not strapped to a desk. For example, at the moment, there's a list of things, and it's growing, of things that I would like to think about and work on, but neither I nor my staff have the time. Those things include establishing an inventory control system for the city equipment and items. I've mentioned this before. We acquire stuff, don't know where it goes. Don't know where it goes. That seems to be not a great way to run a government. Number two, implementing a vehicle tracking system for several reasons. Most municipalities have done that, so they know where their vehicles are, the speed at which they're being driven, if they're parked in a particular place for too long. One thing I really want to do is work with the Treasurer's Office to conduct an inventory of city-owned foreclosed properties, of which there are many. And we are in a housing crisis. So why don't we look at those foreclosed properties and see if we could sell any of them, or how we could sell them, so that they might be developed for housing. I want to seek and apply for more state and federal earmarks and grants. I want to really think about some department reorganizations and other stuff that I think is timely and overdue. I wanted to redefine the purpose and use of Balfour Riverwalk parks. I want to make our parks more inclusive. There's just a lot of things that I don't have enough time in the day to do. And again, I'm not trying to use myself, but I am the current case study. And not to toot my own horn, but I'm here at least 10 hours a day, and I'm not done. So that's not even enough. That's just to keep up. I would also like to point out, for what it's worth, that 59 cities in the Commonwealth that have a mayor, of those 59, 45 have either a chief of staff or a position akin thereto. In Attleboro, I would like to remind you, the city treasurer, the city clerk, and the city collector all have assistants, as do most department heads. And every middle school and high school principal, in fact, has an assistant. In conclusion, I 100% believe that adding this position, in fact, restoring this position, is meaningful. I also 100% believe that this city is full of promise and untapped potential. I see it every day. But in order to seize those opportunities and to get out there and make stuff happen, the mayor has to be able to get up from the desk, get out into the community so that he or she can be better positioned to visualize, plan for, and bring those opportunities home into life. So I respectfully ask for your consideration only to add it to the plan. Funding, if and when, is a whole separate matter. So thank you.
Any questions for the mayor? Mr. Lavoy.
Thank you, President Delicio. Mayor, thank you for coming down. The only question I really have is if the administration's goal to fund the assistance for Parks and Recs and DPW before any of these positions are filled.
Can't, I don't
because
have-
we didn't fund them in the previous budget, so I don't know where those two positions fall in line with these three.
Well, we don't have, what, assistant to Park and Recs, and what was the other one?
DPW.
Well, again, these are subject to funding. I have to be completely honest with you. I would probably get an assistant director for budget administration. That would probably be number one. I have great concerns about losing the current one or whoever may be in that position. In regard, those other two positions are under active consideration. You may have heard me allude to a few minutes ago. Some ideas and thoughts I have I'd like to explore about increasing the efficiencies of certain departments. So whether or not I get the time to do that and the plan that I may come forward with may impact those decisions, but that's part of a bigger project. That's what I would like to have more time to think about, Councilor Hoy.
Paul,
Yeah, just if you could rank them, because when you proposed this, you ranked these three in a perfect order.
Yeah.
But then when given these two positions, we're not really ranking them. I know you mentioned, one position, but those two positions were gruesome to leave out of the budget at budget time. We were talking about maybe getting them in the fall, but it's tough to hear three new positions and then to not know where those two existing positions fall. I mean, these are positions that, similar to the chief of staff, have been in the city for a while, were staffed for a while, and now are not. And
Well, the
I
reason
think
we
we're
didn't-
asking a lot of those department heads.
We chose not to fund them in lieu of laying people off. Okay, so keep in mind the context for that decision. I'm hesitant to give you an order right now because I don't know how that decision, the order that I may feel at the moment, impacts the simple request to add these to the plan. When I come down for funding, you might be able to ask that, but all I'm asking right now, Councilor Bowie, is to put them in the plan. We can have this conversation at a later date if and when funds allow. But I don't know how that impacts the simple request that's before this body right now. Creating them does not mean necessarily filling them in the short term.
Yeah, I just worry about if I'm the head of DPW, how it looks to me if I feel less important that we're adding positions and not funding. And I get that at some time we'll have a discussion, whatever this body decides, that's fine. But the only thing I worry about, as many of us here talked about during budget season, are these two positions, and now we're just potentially accepting the creation of three more. Understanding we're not funding them, but I worry about the optics and how that looks to current city department heads, at that matter. I worry how that looks to them if they feel misheard, unheard.
Well, okay, that's a fair point, but my view is of what's in the city's best interest as a whole. Right? As a whole. I run and have to oversee all the departments, not any particular one. And as I alluded to a few minutes ago, I think there's conversations and consideration to be given to some departments. And the way that things have operated in the past doesn't necessarily indicate they should continue doing so in the future. I think there are some inefficiencies that we could work to address in a few departments. And I'd like to have the time to do that and explore that and present it to the council if I can ever get there. So again, this is adding the positions only, Councilor Voy. When funding comes up, we can have a robust discussion about your question about priorities. Respectfully.
Mr. Waterman, then Mr. Tavares.
Mayor, can you elaborate more on the assistant planning and development, and the planning department position?
Well, I think my friend Gary's going to speak to it, Councilor Waterman.
That would be all right.
And again, I don't want to use the current people serving in the positions, but as you all know, Gary has long been advocating for his department needing more. What it's really difficult to do is to prove the negative, is to argue the opportunity cost. How do you define, how do you value things that we don't have and haven't been able to do in the city because we don't have the bodies to do it? That's the challenge. I'm standing here before you. I can't tell you all the stuff we're not getting done. It's a lot. It's a lot. I'm stretched. These gentlemen in the back are stretched, but I will let Gary speak more, Council Waterman, to his particular department. But I ask you to keep in mind, it's not just what you're seeing being done, it's the stuff that's not happening. And in particular, at Council Homes, it's all the grants that we're not They don't have time to go after. So, for example, I got the city a $960,000 federal grant from Congressman Auchincloss. I need to hire somebody to administer the grant because I don't have the staff who can do that. We don't have staff who's really experienced in the administration of federal grants, and all the requirements and procurement in particular are there too. So I got the money. Now I got to get somebody to help me do it, to help me implement it. But that was a great grant. I'd love to get more of those. But then I have to have somebody actually do that work. So
Okay, thank you.
Satisfied? Mr. Tavares?
I have a couple questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So my first question is, when do you envision, Mayor, funding these 3 new positions?
not anytime soon. Not anytime soon.
Okay.
Particularly as I indicated, the chief of staff would be lowest on the list. I would love to fund them sooner than later, Councilor Tavares, but as I said, think about it. Last year we didn't fill 2 positions because we wanted to avert layoffs. Things aren't necessarily going to be any better financially this year. So I don't see it happening in the next couple of months, that's for sure. If at all, in this budget year.
If that's the case, what would be the rush in creating these positions now? Why not wait until we?
I don't know why would we wait? Why do those 2 things have anything to do with each other?
Well,
We want to
if we're
get them
gonna
on the
create a
books so that when funds come along, we could do it. Why not add them
Well,
now?
that's why I had asked whether you foresaw.
I don't, but I don't, why would we wait? Why do those 2 things have to be
that's fair
married?
My second question has to do with the chief of staff position. Have you looked into potentially mobilizing volunteers via volunteer boards, task force or something like that under the purview of, of your office, planning? For example, one thing came to mind. You mentioned city-owned properties and maybe aggregating some of these properties to figure out how the city might be able to dispose of them. I imagine something like that could be done with the work of potentially volunteers or maybe a group of people who are willing to look into this for a period of time, right? This is not something that successively from year to year that you would have dozens and dozens of properties. I would imagine. I'm not sure.
There's quite a few, yeah. Yeah, I guess, but someone has to oversee the group, they have to charge the group. And look, there's difficulties getting volunteers to fill some of the current boards and commissions we have. So I don't know the likelihood that we're going to be able to create and fill another board and commission.
That's fine.
That's only one function, Councilor Tavares, you know what I mean? That's only one.
Exactly, yeah, and that was my point.
Yeah.
Can some of these, and not necessarily wholesale, but is
Yeah.
it possible to explore using that? Or the other avenue that I was going to mention is, have you explored looking at potentially AI for some potential functions that may increase the value of work that our current employees can do?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. I smile because, as I alluded, yes, but keep in mind, this is municipal government. We are not Google. We are far from on the cutting edge of technology. I wish we were there. We're years behind. We're years behind where we need to be. We just updated and purchased some recent computer equipment, other technology that we needed. So yes, someday, but we are not there yet. And as I think I alluded to in the memo that I sent down, do we just keep waiting to get caught up and fall further behind? So I appreciate your point, and I think technology will create some opportunities and potential for changing some positions, but the city can't afford to wait until that day comes. We're not there. So we can continue in this holding pattern, but I suggest we try to move forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the mayor? Mayor, before you go, first of all, thank you for spending your evening with us. So the time frame was gone over, I appreciate that. So do you see, if we were to add these to the classic comp plan, that this would impact our ability to backfill the numerous retirements that are upcoming?
I'm sorry?
We have a lot of people
Yeah,
that are getting
yeah.
ready to retire. If we add this, is that going to usurp or jump some of these backfills in line?
No, not at all. We're just adding them to the plan. There's no funds, there's no competition for funds there because the funding, yeah.
Not trying to.
No, I just wanna make sure I
I'm just
understand the
trying to ask
question, but-
clarifying questions. I think there's
Yeah, no, I
concern
don't-
that
I don't
we
think
have
so.
a lot of, we know we have people that are gonna be retiring soon.
Yes, we do, yep.
I was happy to hear you talk about succession planning. I think that's extremely important. But what I would ask is, just to build off of Councilor Tavares' question, is there anything preventing us from adding them to the class and comp plan when funding becomes available?
Of course not. But I don't know why those two need to be married. We're just trying to get them on the plan, but no, of course not.
Thank you. Do we have additional questions? Okay, Mayor, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else to speak in favor?
Good evening, Council President, Councilors. For the record, my name is Gary Eurasian, and I'm the city's Director of Planning and Development. I want to thank the mayor for sending down this request to the council and for a recognition for the need for the position, but I also want to thank the council for providing me with this opportunity to speak in favor. Let me begin by saying, as the mayor mentioned, that the request for the additional staff isn't anything recent. My request, you could say, goes back at least 2 previous administrations, toward the end of former Mayor Dumas's administration, certainly during Mayor Hero's administration. And one of the questions I recall vividly that Mayor DeSimone asked me when she became mayor was, Gary, what can I do to help you with your department? Unfortunately, it hasn't materialized, but the need hasn't dissipated. So what I'd like to do is maybe at 50,000 feet offer some rationale and justification for the position. And again, I clearly understand that the request or the ask tonight is, I don't want to say merely, but is to ask to amend the classification plan to include the position, and it isn't for funding. So currently, let me just set the threshold. Currently have 5 staff members. That does not include the Community Development Director and the Community Development Administrator, because they're funded out of the Community Development Block Grant 100%. So the 5 positions in the department right now, again, just to set the bar, is my position, Director of Planning and Development, the Environmental Planner / Conservation Agent, the Assistant Conservation Agent, the Senior Land Use Planner, and the Planning Administrator. And let me also emphasize that with respect to the Planning Administrator, she also wears 2 other hats, and that's also, she's appointed as the Planning Board Clerk and the Zoning Board Clerk. So one of the clear messages that I send to staff when I'm in the interview process and also when they come on board is I've always seen the Department of Planning and Development have 2 tiers of work. The first is to provide administrative and technical support to the Planning Board, the Zoning Board, and the Conservation Commission. That's the bread and butter, and that just is undercurrent of work that's there all the time. And the reason why I stress that is the activities of the 2 boards and the commission are time sensitive, and all the decisions have legal implications. So I stress meticulous review of all the requirements that we need to, as far as intake of an application, the processing, as you know, these are all have procedural requirements, all different time clocks. It could get confusing, but I insist that before we get into any of the departmental projects, that they just really clamp down on understanding the state statutes, the local ordinances, and the local regulations. The second tier is, and I'm going to then reverse back and kind of elaborate a little bit, were all the planning projects, all the initiatives we take. Not that I minimize those any less than the planning boards and the zoning board and the Conservation Commission, because understand, other than processing applications, there's still an enormous undercurrent of constituent and resident inquiries every single day, asking questions from some of the simple questions, some of the more complicated questions, interpretation of rules and regulations. So that all goes along with it. So as part of the Planning Board, Zoning Board, and Concom, well, I cannot tell you that the number of applications have necessarily increased over time. What I will tell you categorically is that they have become increasingly complex and complicated, and requires a lot more intuitive insight, analysis. There are times, I consult with the building commissioner. I consult with our city solicitor. There is a link, I should say an internet platform that's called Mass Serve List, where planners from around the Commonwealth bounce questions off each other. You know, what's your experience? How did you handle this? So I do a lot of research on that just to see how other communities have handled it, because procedures are somewhat different from community to community. And after I kind of review that, I'll go and I'll touch base with Serpent. And then ultimately, you know, my last resort is the city solicitor, so as not to take up too much of his time. But councilors, aside from just the number of applications, please understand, over the last 25 years, the complexity of the ordinances and regulations have changed. We've seen an increase in federal regulations, and one example just is the NIPDs. I'll talk about that a little more in a few minutes, but that takes at least 1/3 of the conservation agent's time, if not half of his time. This is unfunded, which I've explained to the council numerous times when I've come before you. This is an unfunded mandate that's absolutely required by EPA of all the communities in the Commonwealth, well, the vast majority of the communities in the Commonwealth. And while Nick and I work together on it, and we also, of course, collaborate with the Public Works Department, the bulk of the work lands on Nick's desk. So that's just one federal regulation that really takes up a tremendous amount of time. That wasn't there years ago. It's, again, the last 20 years or so. New state regulations. As you know, we just adopted in December of 24, the MBTA overlay district, the ADU requirement. There are the FEMA requirements regarding the flood map. So these are all new regulations that come out. So in terms of what we regulate, it's not standing still. It's always increasing the amount of work. We've adopted a local wetlands ordinance. We didn't have that a long time ago. We've adopted a stormwater ordinance. We didn't have that a long time ago. Regarding the zoning ordinance, we've adopted site plan. This is just an overview. I didn't want to list every single one, of course, but site plan review, the sign ordinance, the MBTA regulations, the regulation of marijuana establishments, the TOD ordinance, the ADU ordinance, the open space residential development, when we did an overhaul of those regs. And also, my department collaborates with the Economic Development Director often on the adoption of the HDIP ordinance, the DIF ordinance that the council passed. What I would ask at some point after tonight, if you would, and I'm sure you read it already, if you would indulge me, and if you want to just take a look at the FY26 narrative that all the departments heads have to submit to the council as part of our budget request. And what I just want to bring up again, just at 50,000 feet, we're administering 12 grants, almost totaling $1 million, just this fiscal year alone. The complexity of that isn't so much writing the grant. The bulk of the work is the administration of the grant. Monthly reporting, quarterly reporting, having meetings with state and federal staff on the deliverables, examining the deliverables from our consultants, making sure they're on time, making sure reimbursement packages are correct, working with the city auditor who's keeping a very keen, poignant eye on all of our spending, making sure we're on time. I can't say enough about our city auditor. She often makes herself present just to say, hey, Gary, just to make sure you got these dates, and I appreciate that. I'm going to say I think I'm 95% of the time on point, but every so often there's a date or reminder she sends me, and I'm like, good thing Debbie sent that to me. And why do I tell you all these things? Why do I tell you all these things? To a certain extent, maybe standing here, it seems self-serving to ask the position, and that's sincerely not my point. What I want to stress to the City Council, that the reason why I've asked for this position over time is not only the increase in the workload, but the sophistication of what we've had to do. Whether you know this or not, but we also oversee the SPAC landfill, the annual operating maintenance plan. Again, I mentioned the NIPDs. Again, Nick and I are the only ones, along with Mike, that administer that. That is a colossal lift. And again, I know I speak to you about this during our department head meeting when we do the budgets, but in any event, Also coming offline, I'm glad to tell you that the open space plan has been completed. The housing needs assessment has been completed. The US 1 report has been completed. The Affordable Housing Trust report has been completed. The comprehensive plan is to come offline, completed by the end of this calendar year. That's going to come down to the City Council through the Planning Board, required by the Charter for your approval. And my point with that isn't just to tell you what we're working on. Where I'm building up with this, with the need with the Assistant Director folks, is now we have to go into implementation mode. The last thing I want to do, the last thing I would have asked the mayor and the City Council is to ask for an appropriation or to give me support to file a grant application, conduct a study, and then put it on the shelf and let it gather dust. I don't do that. What I want to do now is, as these are all coming offline, is we need to go into implementation mode. By the end of this month, 4 more projects are going to come offline. 2 very important ones is the BRIC grant, which is the downtown flood mitigation study that Nick and I are working on, and the MVP, the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Plan for the green stormwater infrastructure that we want to install in the downtown area. Those are the studies. We now need to go into construction mode. So again, folks, I don't want those studies just to, come to the council, check off the box that we're doing this, and this. And I never would do that to the mayor. What I want to do, of course, is then come down to you, prioritize our needs, and go into implementation mode. We need another body in the office. We need another body in the office. That's on what we're working on right now. Looking down the line, the mayor was able to secure a $150,000 grant for digitization. We're going to finish that project, I think, at the end of October. We are now having every document in the planning department. Planning board, all the planning board folders, all the Concom folders, all the zoning board folders, all digitized. Well, that's great. It's quicker for us to help with the constituents as they are inquiring about folders. They could look the information up ourselves. We could get a lot quicker. We don't have to get cumbersome folders, make photocopies. You understand all the efficiencies. But I want to take that a step further. And I wish I could tell you that we would be pioneers in this, but we wouldn't be. But I do want to follow some of the departments my colleagues are in. I'd like to go completely electronic with all our filings. Right now, it's still antiquated. It's cumbersome. Paper documents, paper reports. In as much as, engineers provide us with digital documents, but nonetheless, we still have everything, multiple copies of applications, multiple drainage reports, and you've seen some of them, that each one is like 3 inches thick. Plans that are 30 pages long. Filings where we have to have an application walked around City Hall, as you know, under the delinquents tax requirement. The city treasurer and the city collector have to sign off on the application. Gotta walk that around City Hall. It sounds antiquated. So where I'm going with this new position is to hand over numerous projects that right now that I want to see these evolve into the next step. Again, one of those being, again, taking the digitization of the project, of the documents we have, and making sure that moving forward that we could then transition into electronic filing for the city of Attleboro, at least for my department, and hopefully that could, pass on to other departments. I want to get a little more aggressive with grants. Again, the mayor asks me every so often when we have our meetings, Gary, what aren't we doing? Is there anything we're not doing? And shame on me if I was ever to tell the mayor, no, we're good. We're touching on everything. And it's not the case. It's not the case. I'll be honest with you. We leave money on the table. I think we do, if I may, I say with the utmost humility, I think my department does a really good job in getting grant funds, given the size of the staff and administering those. But we still leave money on the table. And there's an opportunity cost. While Nick and I and the rest of the staff were working on 3 or 4 or 5 other things, there were 2 or 3 or 4 other things that we aren't working on. And if we don't get the grant, Salem's going to get the grant, Haverhill's going to get the grant, Orange is going to get the grant, Pittsfield's going to get the grant. So why not Attleboro? So again, with this other position, there are projects that I want to move our department into some new territory. I want to be able to share the burden of the workload with this assistant, and also finally, counselors. There's this whole matter of successive planning, and at some point, I'd like to, and as much as I share as much as I could with my current staff, is to have this other, and I want a pure land use planner to help augment all the work that Nick and I do in advancing the city. And I guess the last thing I want to say is, here we are in 2025. The last time the Department of Planning and Development got an increase in staff was we established the position of Assistant Conservation Agent probably in 2010, and thanks to the mayor and thanks to the council, we increased that and made that a full-time position, which I so appreciate. But as I explained to you over the course of the last quarter century, the amount of, it isn't again so much necessarily the workload, which it has increased, of course. It's the complexity of the workload and the trajectory that I want to take our department. I've had one staff, we went from 4 to 5. It just seems that there's a time when we need some extra help. Again, if we were getting help every so often, if I had a department of 10 or 12, and every several years, 4 or 5 years, we get someone else, absolutely. But the quarter century, it's a long time. We've only had one position. And again, I don't minimize it, the Assistant Conservation Agent. And remember the logic behind it. To go from part-time to full-time was to help take the top off with Nick so that Nick could take some additional time to work with me. And let me tell you, it's working like a charm. It has helped, but I think we could use some more help.
Any questions for Gary? Okay. Council Sawyer.
I don't really have a question, I have a comment. When do you sleep? You seem to be working all the time. It seems like a lot. And I just want to express that I think that, this is necessary.
Thank you. Again, I'm as good as my staff. My staff helps my department shine. I appreciate that comment, but I also want to make sure, we also recognize Nick. He spends a lot of his time too in the department, early in the morning, late at night. I'm not exactly the early riser, so I'm not going to tell you I'm here early in the morning, but whether it's at night or on weekends, whatever, we put in. That's the time it takes, and what we don't want to do is diminish our productivity. We want to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. But I humbly appreciate the comment. Thank you, and the recognition.
Okay. Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay, folks, thank you very much.
Do we have
Appreciate
anyone
it.
else to speak in favor?
Okay.
Good evening again. Mason Lord, Director of Budget Administration. If I may, President Dulce, I think you asked a question about retirement and how does this measure potentially impact future retirements. I actually think this isn't conflicting with the retirement planning. I actually think this is intentionally addressing those problems. So, one of the things that we lack in the city across the board, I think the school department's done a really good job of kind of plussing up their continuity plans, but I think across the board we've lacked in sort of that succession planning and that continuity planning. And it makes us vulnerable to, hopefully it's somebody hitting the lottery, but the proverbial bus, medical issues, retirements, any of those, and then especially any unplanned events that, could take somebody out of the job. And, we do what we can to try to create lag time between positions to, train replacements and things of that sort. But some of these positions in the city, they can take years to really get somebody up to speed. And, I think the council's probably seen that sort of direct experience with the city auditor and the amazing work she's done, and trying to really, plus up the department staffing there to build sort of that continuity going forward.
Mason, just as a point of clarity, my question was around if we fund these, the impact it'll have to being able to backfill, as well as a mechanism. Is there anything saying that we have to, that we can't add these when the position comes available? I didn't talk about retirement, so I just wanted that clear.
Okay, understood. Yeah, I think I might have misunderstood the question, but I think the goal is to create more of an opportunity to backfill for those those vacancies that come up. And the city has a lot of retirements in the near future. My department does. And, just to speak on my department, so the Office of Budget Administration has sort of 5 core functions, budget being the biggest. We obviously manage the general fund, the enterprise funds, and the revolving funds. It's about $250 million a year. I guess to put a little narrative on it, I think if you're in a private company and you had $250 million budget, you probably wouldn't leave it to one person. Just a little bit of an aside, but we also manage purchasing and procurement. We are the administrative support for the Municipal Building Commission, the School Building Committee. We manage all capital projects, and we've done a lot of work to sort of decentralize to have the departments having a larger role in those, but the capital projects really function directly under our office, which historically there was a position associated with that role alone, the capital projects administrator, which part of the duties of that would sort of fall under this assistant director. And then we have municipal information systems, our IT department, and parking. Those are sort of like the 5 kind of core responsibilities, but also we really, my department has really taken on the role of long-term policy planning. So anything that's financial related, any sort of financial tools and analysis for long-term and short-term planning. We're a big player in obviously ratings calls and sort of the impact on our bond rating, employment and HR policies. One of the biggest responsibilities that I specifically have is being the financial representation in collective bargaining agreements. So as you might know, that there's about 12 to 15 collective bargaining agreements in the city between the city and the school department. And now I'm actually an active participant in the school negotiations as well. So that's something that takes up a significant amount of time, as you can imagine. Collective bargaining is a really important thing that we do, maintaining those employee relationships, but it's also very time consuming. And it's consistent and regular. We go on sort of 3-year contract cycles, but contracts are never closed. They're constantly, being reviewed, and there's constantly union complications that come up, and those are living documents, and we're always dealing with those. Additionally, health insurance. I'm definitely we're the financial representation for the health insurance conversation, and so as health insurance has become more and more of a challenging financial issue for the city, we've played a larger role in sort of working with consultants and working with, outside information to figure out how we can best chart a path forward. And so that really falls to HR and myself. And then a very growing component is grants and federal and state dollars. Obviously, ARPA was, you could look at it as sort of a blip in the radar, but over the past 10 years, there's been sort of ebbs and flows to different funding sources, and a lot of that's been pushed over to my department. So anything that's really financial related that nobody really knows what to do with kind of lands in our department. So I'm very prideful in that I was the last person to kind of allow this business to come down for an assistant in my office, because I truly believe that I can do it. But I think in terms of the long-term sustainability for the city, I really do think there needs to be some additional support and flexibility there, as well as just the continuity. I think we've seen it with me going out on military leave, with the gap between my predecessor and myself. When those gaps happen, there's really not a good off-ramp for where all these duties and responsibilities go, and a lot of them sit, and it unfortunately bogs down other departments. And then even just on the day-to-day side, my department gets stretched pretty thin, and unfortunately that puts me in a place where unfortunately I just can't get to all the things with all the various departments in the city that I'd like to on a regular basis. And I hate to have to make a department head wait a day, 2, but sometimes it can go even longer. And those are things that for in terms of operational efficiency of the city, we're not trying to delay things, but when you just get bogged down, it's difficult. So again, I think the mayor would probably tell you that I was definitely kind of trying to prevent this for a while, but recognizing from various different perspectives in the city, especially folks who've been here a lot longer than me, that this is a necessity and something for the long-term planning of the city. I'm obviously in support of this. I'm going to continue. I don't want to leave here anytime soon. Just say that out publicly and up front. I want to be here for a long time, and there's a lot of really good, important stuff we're working on. But if for some reason I ever have to go out on military leave, if something were to happen to me, or some other instance, I think it's important that we have some sort of backfill rather than just relying on the experience of some other departments to really just kind of hold things together but not move the city forward.
Any questions for Mason? Mr. Cobus?
Two quick questions. One, I don't know if you want to briefly tell the story about, when you went on military leave in Lindsay Street and sort of how that almost fell through, the funding for that, and talk about that. And then the other question is, I think we're all making the assumption that we would have to approve funding for one of these positions, or that we would approve the budget next year to pay for one of these positions. I'm not aware of a mechanism where we wouldn't have to approve one of these positions. Can you think of a situation where all of a sudden we would have hired sort of an assistant budget director, and that person's all of a sudden in the position, and then the budget comes down next year, and now we're in a position where we either have to strike the line and then let this person go, or just accept it? So
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
two
So
questions.
if I may, I'll take those out of order. So the second question, the approach here is ultimately the municipal council is the appropriating authority in the city of Attleboro. So for something like this, that there's essentially two courses of action. One, in this year, the Department of Budget Administration doesn't have the budget to just go out and hire someone, because our budget is based on the existing staffing level and the existing approved positions. So you've already appropriated an FY26 budget, which funds the existing staffing structure in my department. So we don't have the funds available to do that. So if it was going to be an FY26, it would require an appropriation from the council or a transfer from the council. If it was going to be an FY27, the council would ultimately have the approval authority over the budget next year. So if the administration sent down a request for, to fund these positions in the FY27 budget, that would show up as you guys are familiar, in the personnel salary lines and the salary lines, as well as you'd see it on the budget sheets for the salaries in the various funded positions. We also, one of the things I've added in the last couple of years is sort of an FTE count, just to get a general picture of the staffing count in the city. So you would see that reflected there as well, because we look at FTEs as funded positions, not just vacant or positions on the class plan. So short answer, I'm not aware. I guess it's possible if the Department of Budget Administration had a $10 million budget and we had a bunch of staff turnover, it's possible that if the position existed in the city ordinances, within the existing personnel budget, in theory, I guess you could go out and hire. But ultimately, we have a vacancy requisition process in the city, and it has to go through the department, has to go through HR, has to go through my office to certify that those funds are available, and then also has to be signed off by the mayor before a job can be posted. So that's sort of an internal control measure that we have, whereas I don't sign off on positions to be posted unless there's funding available. So that's a process that every single employee in the city, it goes through me at some point. So I guess it's possible if we had like a 10 million, we don't, especially in the instances of these budgets, that there's no vacancies that could fill, these salaries. And it would require multiple people.
That makes
approving it.
sense.
Yeah. The first question again?
Did you want to mention the Lindsay Street situation as an example of why this was?
Sure. I'm not, I don't remember like particulars if there was like an issue, but
free cash, and we wanted to wait for the funding.
Yeah, there was definitely a number of things that I think with sort of an extended leave, knowledge can go with you. When we have employee retirements, knowledge goes with you, and we make a concerted effort to keep other people informed. I think based on experience, I've been trying to do that even more and just have more people involved in the process, even if it's just seeing the things that are being worked on, whether or not they're actually working on them, just knowing what's going on, because things like that slip through the cracks, and you have significant projects that are really important where maybe there was something that was supposed to happen in a certain timeline, and it gets sort of goes away with the person who's not there. That was a case where I think we had informed the council in writing that eventually the city would need to appropriate free cash for.
We're waiting for certified free cash.
Correct, yeah, and I think that sort of just got lost, but it was something that there was no one there to kind of ask, well, what's happening with Lindsay Street? It's like, oh, well, it can't happen till the fall at the earliest. It has to go through the freeze thaw, and well, what's the funding source? Oh, I don't know, Mason's not here, kind of thing, which is not a good way for the city to operate. We don't want it to be dependent on one person, so we're trying to decentralize that as best we can. In a lot of those cases, I think we learned from experience there, but also experience in the city tells us that if we had additional sort of mid-management staff in these departments as sort of that succession plan, we'd be able to kind of plan for these things better and mitigate those issues going forward.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Mr. Waterman?
Thank you. We used to have a special projects position, and then it went to your office. And I've always wondered how you can give the time that maybe a full-time person was once able to give to special projects. And so I was wondering if you could speak to that, and does it slow down or even sometimes fall through the cracks because we don't have the kind of attention we can pay to that?
Yeah, Counselor, I think it's a great question. I think the mayor addressed it a little bit. It's really hard to evaluate the opportunity costs and sort of the missed opportunities for, maybe we don't quite have the capacity or the staffing in place to do a bunch of things that we'd like to do. In terms of how we manage, we do the best we can. I think Councilor Sawyer, you mentioned Gary's here, extensive number of hours. There's many department heads in the city that really put their time in. The mayor mentioned 10 hours. The mayor's shortchanging it. She's here 14 hours a day. There's a lot of folks that are here 10, 12, 14 hours a day. And time is our enemy. So we do the best to kind of, keep those things moving forward. But things do get missed, right? Unfortunately, you have to just prioritize. One of the things, one of the things you learn in the military is if you're not prioritizing, one thing, you're prioritizing nothing. So, we try to focus our economy of force on specific tasks, accomplish those and move to the next. Sometimes you have to take that same approach here, where we might have a million things on the desk and, you really, to actually move things forward, you got to complete one. So things do get delayed sometimes. There's just things that we just can't get to. We try to develop tools. Councilor Vars, you mentioned AI. I'm a very active user of AI. We try to maximize our efficiencies and time as best we can, but ultimately, it's a matter of time and staffing capacity sometimes. So.
Mr. Lavoy?
Thank you, President Delicio. I was going to already ask this question. I didn't because I asked too many questions as it is. But under this position, the same would go for planning. Would you see in the hiring process making sure we hire somebody with a grant writing background or experience to be a priority? Because a city this size, I'm surprised we don't already have one. Probably one of the true positions that a good grant writer would make the city money. They would find more grants in their position, cost to taxpayers. So relying on department heads now with this position, maybe would you see a line in there for a direct experience with grant writing?
Yeah, great question. I think in our department, we're definitely focused on the procurement side of things. So we'd be looking for someone with some level of federal or state procurement grant experience, and we'd be looking to get that person, eventually an MCPPO designation, a Massachusetts Certified Public Purchasing Official designation, which would, directly benefit grant activities in the city. That's something our department's heavily involved in as it is. Whether or not that person would be directly in writing grants for other departments, I think is something that could be considered. I don't think it would be the direct responsibility we would look for, but some of those skills would certainly be critical to this role, and would interact with other departments and sort of managing grants. It's some of what we already do. So having additional individuals in the city that have that skill set is something we'd be looking for.
Additional questions? Mason, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Do we have anyone to speak against? Do we have anyone to speak neither for nor against?
Mr. President, good evening, members of the Municipal Council.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Bill Larson. I live on Fairway Drive. I also run a company on Olive Street. Full disclosure, I'm a member of the school committee. I'm also a member of the One City, One Budget committee. I am here merely to speak on behalf of myself. I think what I've learned over the years is the city's a great employer. There's a lot of departments that are 1 or 2 people deep. There's no way you would ever run a corporation, a successful corporation, that way. The city operations and the services that the city provides for its residents is key. Everyone relies on them. But as many of the speakers before me have mentioned, there are times when all of a sudden, for a number of different reasons, whether it's a lottery ticket, an uncle that loved you in his will, the bus, pick an example. All of a sudden, you don't have that person. I mean, if for some reason the mayor left, Mr. Delisio, you would be taking a leave of absence and you'd be moving upstairs. I'm sure you're capable, but, that would have a huge impact on every department in the city. We've lost, positions over the years. These positions have been on city books in the past. They've gone on, they've come back, they've gone back and forth. Counselor, you've mentioned a couple other positions that, had to go away during last year's budget season. It would be very easy to make an argument for any of these positions. The city needs them all. The flip side of that, because I am speaking neither for nor against, we have a budget issue. So I would ask respectfully that you all work collectively with the administration to find a way to best evaluate the budget and look if there's places that maybe some of these positions could come back one at a time for the sake of the city and for the services that I think all of you want to continue to offer to the residents. And with that, I would like to wish you a good night. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. We entertain questions if there are any. Any questions for Mr. Larson? Ms. Fodor?
I understand your point about being fiscally responsible, but creating the opportunity to have these positions does not affect our fiscal obligations. Isn't that right?
On the face value, yes. And I should also admit, I'm a walking conflict of interest because I can play either side of this argument with you for a half an hour. And I'd be happy to.
So,
But-
I can do that too.
Yeah, but the first step is you need to evaluate what do you want for the city. You need to evaluate how deep some of the departments are. There's a huge succession plan when you look at all the departments in the city and you look at the years of service that we've been so fortunate to have with so many department heads. When these people leave, you're gonna have the same problem I have at my company. You have a 40-year employee, all of a sudden walks out the door with 40 years of experience with them. Well, if we don't start planning 5 years ahead of that person's retirement, that compromises us. You are all in that same situation. The difference is I can choose to reduce my salary and hire an extra person. The city doesn't have that same opportunity at face value. So my recommendation would be there's no harm at all to add these to the plan. Whether they ever get funded, as the other speakers ahead of me have spoken, is something for a future conversation. But if it's not there, it's very difficult to plan for the future if there's something that's not there to be part of that plan.
Mr. Angelo?
Thank you, President Delisio. Thanks, Bill, for coming up here. I appreciate your words and what you're saying and completely agree with you. I'm on an executive team with a corporation that is much smaller in scope than the city of Attleboro. And all these positions that the mayor is talking about, we have many backups. And it makes it a big difference. Where like everybody's made a lot of great points. Gary, the mayor, Mason, yourself as well. And as you know, you've been running a company for a long time, and it is very important. And Someone once said, no, there wasn't, just some comments.
Okay.
And someone once said, here is fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yep, thank you. Just remember, councilors, this is for clarifying questions. There'll be time for comments during deliberation. Do we have additional questions? Mr. Lawson, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
everything you do. Have a good night.
Do we have anyone else to speak neither for nor against? Anyone else speak neither for nor against? Councilor Angelo, do you see any reason to keep this public hearing open?
No, President Delicio, do not.
Thank you. I declare that public hearing closed. And Madam Clerk, will you go on to a reading of the third and final public hearing, please?
Certainly. Third public hearing regarding a keeping a stand license application from Tavern in the Square of 228 Washington Street and a request to serve alcoholic beverage or wine on city property for an October 25th, 2025 event at 104 Mechanic Street.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to speak in favor?
Good evening, members of the City Council. My name is Spencer Linz with, I'm with the City Conservation Commission, I'm with the City Recreation Commission, and I'm the president of Jewelry City Disc Golf, recently created 501c3, representing the development of disc golf course at Highland Park. So we were successful a few months ago. If you remember, you accepted quite a few baskets and tee pads and other assorted materials for disc golf. So we're looking forward to getting those installed pretty soon. We've been working hand in hand with the City Parks Commission and the City Parks Department in order to get that up and running. And so we're very much looking forward to this event to celebrate the grand opening of that free public recreational amenity that Attleboro is getting for free. So we're very excited for that. And in hand, we've created an opportunity for it to be also a fundraising event for the City Fireworks Committee. So we'll be fundraising for next year's fireworks display. So this past year's fireworks display was very successful, and thanks in part to the funding that was given by this council. So we're really just looking forward to this waiver. Really, it's going to create a much bigger event, a much more exciting event. It's going to draw a lot of people, and it's going to create a lot of fundraising opportunities. It's a win-win for everybody. Everybody gets to see, the joy of disc golf. Everybody gets to sort of experience maybe a new sport, celebrate Highland Park for what it is as a green space to the city, and fundraise for the fireworks committee. So we're looking forward to that, and that's all I got.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions for Spencer? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone else to speak in favor? Do we have anyone to speak against? Anyone to speak against? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Seeing none, Councilor Boyd, do you see any reason to keep this public hearing open?
I do not.
I declare that public hearing closed. And I would now go into, I'd entertain a motion to enter into committee of the whole.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are now in committee of the whole. If anyone would like to come to the podium to address the municipal council. Anyone have anything they want to talk about?
Hi, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you for having us tonight. Thank you to the City Council. My name is Adam Newman, and this is my younger, more handsome brother, Josh Newman. The reason we're here is I want to inform you that the Stephen J. Newman Foundation that we recently started in honor of our father, who was an Attleboro teacher at the high school and at Bishop Fee, and the track coach for many, many years, past last year. And the goal of this foundation is to keep doing what Steve Newman selflessly did, was to help students in need. This includes anything from tutoring services, assistance with books, or tablets, or scholarships to trade schools or colleges. Whatever is needed to ensure students can thrive. And to support this goal, we have an upcoming walk on Sunday, October 5th, on the Steve Newman track, and we really hope to have a large community turnout. And as of right now, we've registered over 100 walkers. So we're proud of that, and we want to invite all of you to please register and sign up for the event and your families. And we're just trying to really promote the event. We've been very successful with getting sponsors for the event and many raffle items. The community is just outstanding and very supportive, and very proud of that. You know, we've been using social media and word of mouth to get this out, and you know, we could really use your help and influence in helping this to be a successful event. The mayor will be there. She has graciously signed up already, and you know, I just really just why we're here, just to kind of let you all know what's going on and to help promote that.
Great.
That's all.
Looks like we're gonna have a few questions, if you don't mind.
Of course.
First one I have, though, is, first of all, sorry for your loss. Your father was
Thank
an
you.
absolute legend. What is the entry fee for the event?
$25.
$25.
You get a T-shirt, a wristband, and there's plenty of raffles and really some great items that the community and the city have helped provide.
And how can folks pay for it?
I have some flyers that I can leave here too, but just
Perfect.
to go to the Stephen J. Newman Foundation.org.
Awesome. Yeah, if you don't mind leaving some with Virginia.
Absolutely, I have
Great,
them.
excellent. I saw Councilor Angelo, Councilor Sawyer, then Councilor Rennes.
Thank you, President Lewis. President Lewis, you kind of answered the question that I was, or you answered the question that President Delicio was going to ask. I was going to ask the same thing, and you know, leaving some information with Virginia and stuff. So thank you very much. I attended all the Attleboro schools, and obviously your father was an incredible asset to the city and stuff.
Thank you.
And again, thank you for doing what you're doing.
Appreciate it.
Councilor Sawyer.
Hi, just for the people listening or watching, and for us again, because I missed the date, maybe you can tell us the date, the time, where it is, that type of thing.
Yeah, hi, Josh.
October 5th, it's a Sunday, it's from 9 to 12:30.
Right on the Steve Newman
Right
track.
on the track,
And it's a 2-mile walk
And where is that track?
right at the high school.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Something might know.
No problem. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Councilor Reynolds.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Councilor Lloyd.
Thank you. My condolences. I had the pleasure of going to the high school under your father's legacy.
Thanks,
and
Nicholas.
what a way to honor him. I hope my kids someday do the same. The way I'll integrate a question is, what's the biggest shirt size do you have?
3X.
Good enough. See you there.
Fantastic. I appreciate it very much.
And then just the last question, building on Council Sawyer's question. 2 miles is
8 laps.
8 laps.
So yeah, you'll have to unwind a bit.
Yeah.
Just kind of setting that path. Great. Any other questions or concerns? Questions, rather. All right, gentlemen, thank you, and thank you for coming out.
Thanks very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else who would wish to address the city council tonight? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to arise from committee of the whole.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We have arisen from committee of the whole. We'll now go into a reading of the mayor's communication. Madam Clerk.
September 16th, 2025. Dear Municipal Council, I respectfully submit a communication from Health Agent Sherry Miller Badeau regarding the need for funds to pay the fiscal year 25 invoice to Amazon Business. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $21.99 from the Health Office Supplies account to the health bills from previous year's account.
Finance Committee, please.
For your information, I regret to inform your honorable body we have received the resignation of Leonard Yutkins from the Historical Commission. Please join me in thanking Mr. Yutkins for his service to the city.
Thank you, Mr. Yutkins, for your service. That's just an FYI.
I respectfully submit a communication from Council on Aging Director Kelly Lee regarding computer equipment that the Council on Aging would like to surplus and donate to the North Attleboro Council on Aging for Shine Counseling. There was no interest in the equipment from any of the departments. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to declare the following as surplus and further vote to transfer this equipment to the North Attleboro Council on Aging pursuant to Section 2-12 Disposition of Property Tangible Supply of the revised ordinance, city ordinances. A majority vote of the municipal council is necessary to approve the transfer.
City Property and Claims, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Department of Public Works Superintendent Michael Tyler regarding vehicles that the Public Works Department would like to surplus for trade-in value. There was no interest in the vehicles from any of the departments. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to declare the following as surplus and available for disposition for trade-in value.
City Property and Claims, please.
I respectfully submit communications from Chief of Police Kyle Hegney regarding vehicles that the police department would like to surplus to sell or for trade-in value. There was no interest in the vehicles from any of the departments. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to declare the following as surplus and available for disposition to sell or for trade-in value.
City Property and Claims, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Council on Aging, Kelly Lee, regarding the anticipated award of the Community Development Block Grant in the amount of $17,000. In accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to approve the expenditure of such funds and also approve any further grant amendments by the Council on Aging to fund the Shine Counselor.
Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Council on Aging Director Kelly Lee regarding the need to pay a fiscal year 2022 invoice to Verizon in the amount of $101.65. A vote authorizing payment is needed to satisfy this debt. There is no transfer of funds need to pay this bill, as there is sufficient funding through Fund 2212.
Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully request your honorable body hold a public hearing on Tuesday, October 7, 2025, for the purpose of setting the tax classification for fiscal year 2026. Additionally, and in order to ensure that the city has sufficient time to prepare and mail the third quarter real estate tax bills by December 31st, 2025, I further request that your honorable body hold a meeting of the municipal council no later than Tuesday, October 21st, 2025, for the purpose of voting on the percentage of the local tax levy to be borne by each class of property for fiscal year 2026.
Thank you, Finance Committee. And Council Cobus, would you like to call for a public hearing on October 7th?
I would.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Budget and Administration, Mason Lord, regarding the final new growth and updated state aid and assessment estimates for fiscal year 2026. The city's fiscal year 2026 budget was constructed using the most up-to-date figures available at the time. Considering the final adjustments to new growth and estimated aid and assessments, the city must make corresponding changes in the general fund budget before certification of the tax rate. The full explanation of the following requests can be found in Mr. Lord's communication. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body approve the following. Rescind the appropriation of $4,828,459 to 00810 state and county assessments and charges intergovernmental, Council Vote Number 21 on June 17, 2025, and replace it with the following. 00810 state and county assessments and charges intergovernmental, $4,768,395. Total state and county assessments and charges, $4,768,395. Appropriate $100,000 to Teaching Services Non-Professional Salaries ILA account. Appropriate $50,000 to the System-Wide Non-Professional Salaries Other account. Appropriate $162,812 to the System-Wide Professional Salary School account. Appropriate $240,706 to the Citywide Reserve Fund for Transfer account. To properly reflect these measures on the fiscal year 2026 tax recapitalization, it is necessary to vote on these 5 matters before submission of the fiscal year 2026 tax rate.
Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Wastewater Thomas Hayes regarding the need to pay corrected National Grid invoices that had been estimates between May 2022 and May 2025. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $7,700 from the Water Enterprise Fund Reserve Fund for Transfer account to the Wastewater Enterprise Fund bills from previous year's account.
Public Works Committee, please.
As you know, the city recently entered into a 3-year employment contract with the police chief and fire chief. Because of similar risk and responsibilities associated with the duties and responsibilities of the deputy police chief and the deputy fire chief, it is appropriate and fitting to implement employment contracts for these positions. Employment contracts better allow for stability and long-term planning in the respective departments as they provide deputy chiefs with a degree of job security, allowing them to focus on long-term goals and initiative, rather than worrying about political shifts and job security. Employment contracts also help to clarify expectation and accountability, explicitly defining the deputy chief's responsibilities, performance standards, and the scope of their authority. Moreover, contracts allow for clear conditions for removal and can help attract and retain top candidates to the position. For those reasons, and after consulting with Chief Hegney and Chief LaChance, I believe it is in the city's best interest to enter into a 3-year employment contracts for the positions of Deputy Police Chief and Deputy Fire Chief. Accordingly, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $1,500 from the citywide reserve fund for transfer account to the police allowance clothing to fund the first year of the annual uniform allowance. Transfer $2,500 from the citywide reserve fund for transfer account to the fire salaries stipends account to fund the first year of the Deputy Emergency Management Director annual stipend. Transfer $3,000 from the citywide reserve fund for transfer account to the fire allowance clothing account to fund the uniform allowance that occurs only in the first year of the contract. Amend section 13-4.1 of the revised ordinances by removing the positions of deputy police chief and deputy fire chief from the compensation plan. Said amendment to take effect upon passage. Amend section 13-6 personal rules and regulations by adding the following language in bold to Article 1 purpose and application. The rules and regulations set forth herein shall apply to all full-time and part-time employees in grades 5 through 15 of the classification plan, established under section 13-3 of the revised ordinances of the city of Attleboro, hereinafter referred to as employee, except elected officials, the police chief, fire chief, deputy police chief, deputy fire chief, and employees of the school committee, and shall govern the hours of day, compensation, and other conditions of employment with such employees. Part-time employees shall include only those employees who work a regularly scheduled work week of at least 20 hours or more. Additionally, to minimize any concerns about potential conflict between the contracts and existing city ordinance provisions, I respectfully request your honorable body call for a public hearing to be held on October 7th concerning these proposed ordinance changes.
Public Safety and Emergency Management and Council Holmes, would you like to call for a public hearing on October 2nd?
Yes. Second.
The motion is in order. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Motion passes.
Sincerely, Kathleen DeSimone, Mayor.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, to my understanding, there's no clerk's communication?
There is not a clerk's communication this evening.
Okey dokey, so we'll go right into committee reports, beginning with, as always, with Mr. Kobus.
Thank you. Reporting for the Finance Committee. We have 2 items tonight. First item, from the docket of September 16th, 2025. I move to approve the expenditures during fiscal year 26 of the Community Development Block Grant and also approve the future grant amendments regarding money to cover the salary costs for the Recreation Department Youth Advocate at the After School Youth Program in the amount of $14,400.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
We talked about this in committee last week.
Okay. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Tavares.
Mr. Tavares,
Yes.
Mr.
Oh,
Watt.
actually, hold on.
Yeah,
This is the one we took in there. Doesn't matter, so it's this one. Correct. Thank you. Just wanted to double
Thank you.
check.
Mr. Tavares.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Vice President Dolan.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy.
Yes.
Ms. Foa.
Yes.
Mr. Kobus.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
And the second item from the docket of September 16th, 2025, I move to transfer $15,620, which includes a 10% contingency from account Citywide Reserve Fund for Capital to account Caper Park Zoo building improvement for a new furnace at the Otter/Sloth building.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Yes, if I could, through the president to Councilor Lavoy, I'd like to, pending if the offer still stands, to house the sloth at his house. Otherwise, I'd like to encourage people to support this measure.
The otter.
The otter, okay.
Mr. Lavoy?
Glad.
Otherwise, I encourage people to support this.
Well done. Additional questions or concerns or jokes? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Kobus.
Mr. Kobus.
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares? President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
That concludes the business for the Finance Committee, and I call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Counselor Foa.
There is no business for the IT and Infrastructure Committee, nor for the Special Committee on Rules and Procedures.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lavoy.
Thank you, President Delicio. Reporting for the License Committee from the docket of August 19th, 2025. I move to approve the application to waive Section 11-15.1 and allow alcohol on city property at the Capron Park Zoo for September 28th, 2025. The Friends of the Capron Park Zoo are having an event that evening.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
This is an event that's been going on for quite some time. A big shout out to the Friends of the Capron Park Zoo for hosting this. All proceeds go to the zoo. And I know we have busy calendars with all these events popping up, but I hope this one makes it on there. Hope to see some other counselors there.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
That concludes the business for the License Committee, and I would call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you very much, Counselor Reynolds.
Thank you. Reporting for City Property and Claims Committee from the docket of September 16th, 2025. I move to declare the following parks and forestry item as surplus and available for disposition. 1 2003 GMC Sierra, and it is in very poor condition. Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
Have none.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
From the docket of September 16th, 2025, I move to declare the following Planning Department file cabinets as surplus and available for disposition. There are 23 different types of cabinets available. Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
I have none.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
From the docket of September 16th, 2025, I move to declare the following school department items as surplus and available for disposition. A 2013 Ford E-Series van, which is inoperable, and there is an attached list of math books. Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
No, I have none.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
That is all the business that City Property and Claims Committee has this evening, but I would like to call a committee at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Vice President Dolan.
Thank you. Reporting for Public Works Committee from the docket of September 16, 2025. I move to transfer $59 from account Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account Public Works previous year's bills for a reimbursement for a hoisting license obtained in fiscal year 25. Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, I just want to thank Council Angelo for reading this out for me in my absence last week. And in addition, I'd go with the sloth because otters will rip your face off. They can be dangerous. And that's all the comments I have.
Additional questions, comments, concerns about hoisting licenses or orders? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote beginning with Mr. Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
That's all the business for the Public Works Committee, and I call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Holmes.
There's no business for Public Safety and Emergency Management, and I'll call for committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Angelo.
Thank you, President Delicio. Reporting for Human Resources and Veterans Committee from the docket of August 19, 2025. Move to approve the appointment of Cynthia O'Connell to fill an expired term as alternate member of the Historical Commission, term to expire February 2028.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
We heard from them last week, and she'll be a great addition to the Historical Commission.
Thank you very much. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
From the docket of August 19, 2025, move to approve the appointment of Rachel Benavides to fill an expired term on the Sustainability Commission, term to expire February 2028.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Again, we heard from Rachel last week, and she'll be a great addition also to the Sustainability Commission.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
That's all for Human Resource Development Committee, call for meeting at the next appropriate time. And also, we had no business for compensation classification, call for meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you very much. Council Sawyer.
There's no business for the Zoning, Land Use, and Sustainability Commission, and I call for committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Mr. Waterman.
Transportation and Traffic Committee has no business this evening. We will also meet at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Tavares.
No business for ordinances, elections, and legislative matters. We call for committee at the appropriate time. There's also no business for the special committee for tax abatement review. We call for committee at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. There is no old business. We have several pieces of new business for which I'll recognize Councilor Lavoy first.
Thank you, President Delicio. Following amendment, all right, so how much of this do you want me to read? Do you want me to read the whole thing, or, I know a lot of it's...
Everyone has a copy of it, I believe, so I would just read the section, what it is, and then once it's seconded, you can give a overview.
Section 7-3, Road and Vermin Control, 7-3.1, Definitions, 7-3.2, Infestation Prohibited, 7-3.3, Inspection and Remediation, 7-3.4, Feeding of Animals, 7-3.5, Use of second-generation anticoagulant rodenticide and glue traps, Section 7-3.6, Fines.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments?
I'm sure everyone is familiar with this. When I put it through the first time, there was some unintended errors that occurred with the fine portion of it. It was certainly never the intention to fine any city employee. In doing so, I revised that section and felt to give this a fair shake through so that one section or one portion of this didn't hinder the entire piece of business. And I also added in Councilor Angelo's point of the glue traps as well. Aside from that, all the verbiage is the same. And the only other thing I added was there's going to be no waiver for the glue traps. There will be for the scars.
Additional questions, comments, concerns on this? Vice President Dolan.
Thank you. So, just to be clear, the changes you made are only in 7-3.6?
Well, so 7-3...
And the glue traps.
Yes, so the glue traps, not giving a waiver for glue traps, there is still the one for the scars. And then the only other thing would be correct, 7-3.6. I just added the verbiage to ensure that city employees cannot be fined. And then also that, the administration alluded to the fact that if a outside vendor violated that, they could be terminated. So it's in there just to find that if a vendor violates it, that would be, up to the administration. It could result in termination of services.
So I'm just, may I?
Yes, but there'll be time to deliberate, and then we have the public hearing as well. But, yeah,
Okay.
I just don't want to get into a debate.
No, I mean, I wasn't gonna get into a debate or the weeds or whatever, but that's fine.
No, if there's a question or comment.
No.
As long as it's not
I'll
gonna.
comment later.
Okay, very good. Mr. Angelo, then Councilor Sawyer.
Thank you, President Delicio. One, thank you very much, Councilor Voy, for sticking with this and your persistence, and thanks to President Delicio for assisting on this as well, too, and also adding in the glue traps. And just to reiterate, and I apologize if you already said it, but this is just for the city property only. But again, thank you very much. It's a great job in your part, and appreciate you getting this taken care of. And thank you, President Delicio.
Yep. Councilor Sawyer.
What Councilor Angela had mentioned was about the city property, and that was not clear from what I was reading, and then especially on the portion of feeding of animals, it seemed that it was talking towards residents, so I just wanted to be clear on what this was going towards, and that was all I was trying to get as a clarification.
Mr. Lavoy.
Perfect. Yeah, so 7-3.4 is pre-existing in the city ordinance. That applies to homeowners or people feeding animals. That has nothing to do with, I didn't change anything in there. That's just already there. Mass law allows for that. Mass law does not allow for us to ban these on private property without a home rule petition. So this solely is city-owned property. So 7-3.5, which is the main substance of the business, the first line mentions on city-owned properties. And I also just want to take the second to thank Councilors Angelo and President Delicio for co-signing this for me. I did not have that on my mind the first time. Just a lot of information tonight.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. This time, we're gonna put it into city property and claims with Councilor Reynolds, where it does, it says about city property. And then Councilor Reynolds, this will, at some point, require a new public hearing.
Okay.
Okay?
Do we have any time that we can?
I think we can discuss
go
that,
through that
and then we
later.
can bring that in, whatever makes sense. Second piece of new business, I'm gonna proverbial give up the seat, but instead of playing musical chairs, Vice President Dolan.
President Delicio.
Thank you. To be referred for study and recommendation, the following new business, to request to move the limit of gift card donations to be approved for use by the council to over $100. Currently, all gift card donations, big or small, must be approved and accepted by the council. Furthermore, the ordinance to be updated to add a mechanism for the auditor to be able to track all donations.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
I'm sorry. Do you have any comments, President Delicio?
Yes, thank you. Motion is in order. So thank you to Stacy Santos, who works in the Veterans Office, who really kind of walked Virginia and I through the impact of this. So we just get so many of these on a regular basis, right? But it's from when they're donated to the mechanisms upstairs, whether it's being checked in by the auditor, going to the mayor, being sent, put into the communication, being sent down in the communication, going to committee, being voted out of committee, waiting for the certificate of vote. If you're a senior or you're a veteran, this really impacts your ability to be able to get these gift cards, these donations that really, for some of these folks, a lot of them, if you think, and the Dunkin' Donuts gift cards or the Stop and Shop gift cards. So this is just in a way to expedite this process, so those that need those donations get them a little quicker.
Council Angelo?
Thank you, Vice President Dolan. Thank you very much, President Delicio, for getting this taken care of. And you touch on a lot of great points, and it is very important because some of these, if they can get to someone that much quicker for the veterans, and I think this is great. So kudos to you and everybody else for pitching and taking care of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council LaVoy?
Thank you, Vice President Dolan. Excellent job describing this, because I was just thinking logistically and the amount of paperwork for no reason on this to tie it up. And then I love the auditor point, but I wasn't even thinking of the turnaround time on donations. So this business is 10 times better than I could imagine. So thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments? I have a comment. This is a good thing. I like this. The only thing is, I think we need to get out those two words that say "for use by the council." I think we just need to put limit donations to be approved by the council to over, because it sounds like they're for us. So I think if we just
Yep.
nip that in the bud and we're good.
Yeah, I feel the semantics can be cleaned up during in committee.
Yeah, otherwise I think this is a great idea.
Great. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? All those in, where would you like this to go? City property and claims? So this will go to city property and claims. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. I will take the seat back. Okay, so the last piece, I put it in new business. It's not necessarily new business in a traditional manner, but what I will be doing is a creation of a special committee to investigate the water loss of 2024. The charge and responsibilities of the special committee will be to investigate the events leading up to and after the discovery of the Manchester Reservoir valve for Orr's Pond being left open. Expected results will be included, but not limiting the timeline of events leading up to the valve being open, chain of events once the water loss was identified. The water loss itself, the charge will include potentially interviewing appropriate staff, personnel, a review of records and possible testimony before the council. This committee will be chaired by Councilor Kobus, vice chaired by Councilor Tavares. The third member will be myself. I have a few comments, and this is within my purview as the president of the council to create special committees. I feel this is an important one. There's been a number of issues as I've been out talking with residents over the spring, over the summer, received phone calls, as I know we all have. This is the number one issue that I hear about. It has to do with water loss, the water rates, PFAS. When residents, and when I've spoken to residents about the water loss, they're not shy about raising their concerns, and they have questions they feel haven't been answered. As such, as it is in my purview, as I mentioned, I am going to create this special committee to investigate the water loss. This is about accountability and transparency. I want to thank the men and the women of the Attleboro Water Department for having to endure the shadow hanging over their heads for the better part of a year. This is not a reflection of them. As a council, we have a responsibility to investigate this. We have a former superintendent and a former assistant superintendent that had this calamity happen under their watch. Several concerns have been raised about their knowledge and reaction to the water loss. This doesn't sit well with me, and realistically, it shouldn't sit well with anyone else. These two former employees are no longer with the city. One resigned, one retired. Maybe they saw the writing on the wall, I don't know. Perhaps, but this council has a responsibility. That means perhaps they saw the writing on the wall. But this council has a responsibility to the water users and ratepayers to find out exactly what happened, how much water was lost, and aside from that, who knew what, when did they know it, and how can we truly prevent this from happening again? I've already put in a request to the MIS director for emails to and from both the former superintendent and assistant superintendent. I've asked for the keywords to include water loss, valve, and mixing. It's just a starting point. I'll send the emails from the MIS director to the committee through Virginia. Once the committee has reviewed these emails, we'll carve a path forward. This is too important not to get right. The committee, as I mentioned, will be chaired by Councilor Kobus. Councilor Tavares will be the vice chair, and I'll be the third member. So, Councilor Kobus, this is now in your hands.
Thank you, President Delicio.
Second. Thank you.
I don't know that it needs to. It's more of a, because it doesn't need a vote, because I have the purview to do it. I put it on the new business more for the transparency.
Okay.
Okay. That being said, I will entertain questions and comments on this, just in that same vein of transparency, if there are any. Mrs. Fuller.
Thank you, President Lucio. The mayor came down and gave us a report on this. You found it inadequate?
She gave us a statement. I believe we were waiting for a report. I feel that this council has an obligation to be able to follow up and find out truly what happened. I think by us putting our own investigation in an ideal world, when this committee is done, we end up in the exact same spot that the mayor, and we're on the same page. But we have an obligation. This was this was a catastrophic event in our city's history and our water department. And I think the where we start to move forward is finding out exactly what happened and who knew what when.
But your anticipation is we end up in the same place. That's what you just said.
No, my anticipation is, my hope would be that we end up in the same place. I don't have any anticipation one way or another.
Okay.
This is why we're doing this. Mr. Lavoy.
Thank you, President Delicio. I support this. I think being asked this many times, we're almost in the same position as most of the ratepayers, to where we don't have any information that anyone else doesn't have, nor any insight to give. And I think it's a mechanism of this body. Why shouldn't we use it the same as we use any other mechanism of the body? I don't think the scenario dictates whether that's right or wrong. It's there for a reason. We should certainly utilize it. And like you said, I hope that everything turns out the same. But if not, I think that we deserve to know. The mayor did come down, but if my recollection serves me well, in there we were told it was still an ongoing investigation. So post that statement made, I haven't seen any closure of an investigation. I haven't gotten an email with any findings. I haven't gotten a report in my mailbox. So we know the same as the general public knows from that statement that stated this was still ongoing. So I don't see any reason to not support this.
Thank you. Mr. Waterman, then Mr. Sawyer.
I totally support this. As you said, this is on the minds of many, many people throughout the city. I hear about it every day. I heard about it today. And it's hard to give an answer without this body investigating it. So, kudos.
Ms. Sawyer.
I also do agree with this committee. I think it's a great idea. I just wondered if it might also benefit the committee to have an investigative person, such as a police officer, to help with investigation in this, just to have another person to also not oversee, but to be a part of it as well.
Yeah, so that'll be up to the chair. Appreciate the feedback. That'll be up to the chair and the direction as to which she'd like to take this forward. I think, in Councilor Lavoie, you touched on a little bit, and to Ms. Flower's comment, we have two former employees who are still gonna be getting some semblance of a retirement or longevity here. You know, in my mind, why do they get to just walk away? So maybe there's nothing we can do, but we won't know. No one's ever gonna say no to the question you don't ask. So I think we do have the mechanism in place, as I know Council Reynolds and Councilor Cobus will remember. We had another situation several years back with the water department and a gas leak where, Mr. Cobus, I believe you were quite instrumental and took the lead on that, which is why I felt you were the appropriate person to chair this committee as well. Despite the fact it doesn't need one, if folks are more comfortable, Madam Clerk, we can definitely do a voice vote. What's the will of the council? Second, sure. So that would be on the motion to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Motion passes. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned at 8:45. And I just almost gavelled my phone.